Hi everyone, I'm Gavin Lon. I'm very excited to bring you this new Python for Beginners course in 2025. I was going to wait until the entire course was finished, but I thought rather than wait, why not release the course in sections as the various parts of the course are completed. So, I've just completed the introduction to Python part of the course, and here it is. So, in this part of the course, we are going to go through the setup process step by step, where we set up our local machines so that we can create and run Python code and ultimately learn the fundamentals of Python. The course is targeted at those that are new to programming but have at least a basic working knowledge of computers, to those who may be even expert at other languages like C# but want to learn Python. Python is one of the easiest languages to learn, so if you, for example, have a good knowledge of C#, this course will be very easy to follow and will make it very easy for you to learn Python. But even if you are new to programming, this course will be easy to follow, and Python is an excellent programming language to learn as a first programming language. Python is a high-level interpreted programming language known for its readability and simplicity. It supports multiple paradigms, including procedural, object-oriented, and functional programming. Python has a vast standard library and a strong ecosystem of third-party packages for various applications. It is widely used in web development, data science, AI, automation, and more. Python's syntax emphasizes code readability, making it beginner-friendly and efficient for rapid development. I thought with the rapid evolution of AI and machine learning that Python is an excellent language to learn for all developers, as Python is the most popular programming language for AI and machine learning. So let's start with setting up our local machines so that we can create and run Python code. Then, once we are set up, we'll create our first simple Python application. Before we start learning the basics of writing Python code, we need to make sure that our computers are appropriately set up. This involves three main steps. We'll first make sure that we have the latest version of Python installed on our computers. We'll then need to install an appropriate IDE on our computer so that we can write and test our Python code as we progress through the course. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. It is a software application designed to provide programmers with a comprehensive environment to write, edit, test, and debug code. It combines multiple tools into a single interface, streamlining the software development process. Two popular IDE choices for Python are PyCharm and Visual Studio Code. I've decided to use Visual Studio Code in this course because it is a versatile IDE, it is a lightweight IDE, and I think all developers should have at least a basic knowledge of Visual Studio Code. Note that both PyCharm and Visual Studio Code are cross-platform and can be run on Windows, Mac, and Linux platforms. So you can follow along with this course on multiple platforms, but I'll be demonstrating the Python code created in this course on my Windows platform. If you are on, for example, a Mac platform, it will still be easy to follow along with this course. We'll then launch Visual Studio Code and install the Python extension. The primary purpose of the Python extension is to provide features and integrations that streamline coding, debugging, and testing in Python. So let's firstly make sure that we have Python installed, preferably the latest stable release of Python. You may already have a version of Python installed on your computer. This is easy to check. To do this, simply launch your command prompt if you're on a Windows platform, or launch your terminal window if you're on a Mac or Linux platform. If you're on a Windows platform, type the following at your command prompt: Python space -- version, then press the enter key. Right, so you can see I'm actually got a previous version of Python installed. So we want to install the latest release of Python, the latest stable release of Python. So to do that, let's navigate to this URL here, then hover your mouse pointer over the downloads menu item here. Then you can see that the website has detected what platform I'm running, which is of course Windows. So we can confirm that by looking at the status here. And then we can simply press this button here to download version 3.13.2, which is the latest stable release. So let's click this button here. And you can see it's downloading it, and it'll appear in my downloads folder once the install executable has been downloaded. And you can see the status here. It's when it makes a complete donut, it means that the install executable is available. Excellent. And there it is. So let's go to our downloads folder, and you can see that this is our install executable right here. So we are ready to go through the installation process. So let's start by double clicking the install executable. So let's double click this icon here. Right. So when I was practicing the install process of Python for this video, I stumbled across an issue where once I had completed the installation process and subsequently ran the python -- version command to confirm that I was now running the latest stable release of Python, I noticed that the output reflected the previous version of Python that I had previously installed on my computer. So this is clearly not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the latest stable release of Python, which is currently 3.13.2. Basically, to get around the issue, I performed an appropriate custom install before clicking the install button. Let's go through the details of what I mean. So let's choose the customize installation option here. Firstly, make sure that the use admin privileges when installing py.exe is in fact checked before we hit the custom installation option here. And also, if you're on a Windows platform, you'll want to check this checkbox here, add python.exe to path. Right, let's click the customize installation option here. Okay, and let's make sure that PyLauncher for all users requires admin privileges is checked here. Great, let's click the next button. And we want to make sure that the install Python 3.13 for all users checkbox is checked here. Then let's install Python by pressing the install button. Excellent. And as you can see, it's rapidly installing Python on our local machines. That's great. Excellent, setup successful. So we have now installed Python, but we want to confirm that the latest stable release has indeed successfully been installed on our local machine. So we can do that by typing python -- version if we're on a Windows computer. Of course, we type python 3 space -- version, then press the enter key if we're on a Mac computer, to check if we've got the latest stable release of Python installed. And you can see the differences. That was the version that I had earlier installed, and this is the latest stable release. So that is successful. We've successfully installed Python. Excellent. I've now confirmed that I've installed the latest stable release of Python on my Windows platform. I hope you have also been able to install the latest stable release of Python. So let's now progress to the next stage of our setup process. Let's install Visual Studio Code. To do this, let's navigate to this URL. Great, and you can see it has detected what platform I'm on, which is of course Windows, and we just go download for Windows. And there it is. It's doing the whole donut completion thing, so we can see the progress of our download. And once the donut indicator has completed, we know that our install executable is available, and then we can double click on the install executable and install Visual Studio Code. Excellent. So that has now completed. We've got the install executable for VS Code downloaded to our local machines, and then of course all we do to install Visual Studio Code is double click on it. But before that, please note that the installer file will have a .exe extension on a Windows platform, a .dmg extension on a Mac platform, and a .deb or .rpm extension on a Linux platform. Right, so to install the VS Code IDE, simply double-click on the appropriate installer executable and follow the instructions until you have successfully installed VS Code. and you just follow the instructions as you go. And I would actually make sure that you click this checkbox item here just for convenience so you can launch VS Code from your desktop. So let's click that button there and let's go through it and then press the install button to install VS Code. And then you should be able to find an icon representing VS Code on your desktop and you can double click on it to launch it. So I'm not actually going to go through with this installation because I've already got VS Code installed on my computer. So I'm just going to cancel that there. And then we can simply launch VS Code from our desktops. So the final step is to install the Python extension. To install the Python extension, click the extensions option here in the left sidebar pane here. So let's click this item here. And then we can just perform a search for Python like this. Excellent. Just expand this here and you can see Python by Microsoft. This will provide us with support for coding in Python within Visual Studio Code. And then all we need to do within the right pane is click the install button like this. Excellent. So, great, you are now set up to learn Python. Right, now that we are set up to create Python code and run our Python applications, let's move forward to the next stage. Let's create our first Python application. So, creating a Python project in Visual Studio Code is very straightforward. The first thing to do is to create a folder on your computer where you wish to store the files that will contain your Python code. Right, so I've selected this as my root directory C dev here, and within this folder, I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to name this folder Python Projects like this. And then within this folder, I'm going to create a subfolder, and I'm going to name this Python Learn. And this will be the folder that I use to house the Python files for my little project here. Okay, so the next step is to load up Visual Studio Code. So let's do that. Then to open your project, you simply go to the File menu and select Open Folder here like this. And then we navigate to the folder that we just created here, because this is going to be the folder where we store our Python files. And you just go select folder like this. Excellent. Great, now we're ready to create some Python code. So firstly, let's create a file with a .py extension. We're of course going to create Python code in this file. So .py signifies that the code that we are going to create in this file is Python code. So to create our .py file, let's click this icon here, which has the tooltip text, new file, ... And then let's name our file main.py like this. Excellent. We are now ready to write our first Python code. Exciting. So, I like to stick with tradition, which of course means our first program will simply output the text "Hello World" to the console screen. So to do this in Python is very simple. You simply type print, which is a built-in Python method. You open and close round brackets like this, and you pass in the literal text "Hello World" like that. Excellent, and that's it. That's pretty much our application done. But there's a few things to note. So one is that it's also valid to wrap your string literal within single quotations, and the Python interpreter won't have a problem with this. But I choose to wrap my literal string within double quotes. The hidden rule here is really just to be consistent. So if you're using double quotes in your Python file, then I recommend that you consistently use double quotes where possible. And of course, the converse is true. So if you're using single quotes in your Python file, then consistently use single quotes. However, the other thing to note is that if your string literal, for example, contains an apostrophe, which is denoted by a single quotation symbol, then you must use double quotes. Let's look at a quick example of this. So if we were to pass in the literal text, it's a beautiful day, like this, you can see that Python has a problem with this straight away because we have a single quote within the actual literal text. So Python's not recognizing this as the wrapper for the string value, if you like. We'll discuss data types, including string data types, in the following section of this course. But so this is a string literal, and we're trying to wrap a string literal that contains a single quote within single quotes. And of course, Python flags this and doesn't recognize it as valid syntax. So we have to use double quotes in this particular example. And as you can see, when we wrap it in double quotes, the error goes away and Python accepts this as valid syntax. So here we now are wrapping our literal string in double quotes. But you should also note that if we needed, say, for example, quoted text to be included within our literal text value, like this, for example, where we're quoting what a particular person has said. For example, she said hello, like that. Or she said goodbye, like that. You can see straight away that Python does not recognize this as valid syntax because it's confusing the double quotes here that wrap the quoted section of the string literal with the Python code where the double quotes mean that whatever's within the double quotes is a string. So Python cannot interpret this as valid code. So to get around this, we could just simply So to get around this, we could simply just wrap the string literal within single quotes. And now, of course, Python recognizes that as valid syntax. Excellent. So let's replace this argument here now with hello world wrapped in double quotes. Like that. And now it's very simple to actually run our code, but before we do that, we must ensure that any changes we've made to the file since the last time we ran our code has in fact been saved. And to do that, you can simply go to the File menu like this and click the Save menu option, or you can just use the key combination of Control S like this. So Control S will do the same thing, and you can see that this is the shortcut to this menu option, Control S. On a Mac platform, it would be Command S to save your changes. Right, so now we want to invoke the terminal window so that we can run a command that will run our code. So to do that, you can go to Terminal like this, and then go New Terminal to invoke the terminal window. And you can see here that this is the current directory where we are saving the main.py file. By default, this is displayed to us in the terminal window. We can also launch the terminal window on a Windows platform by using the key combination of Control tilde, like that. On a Mac platform, the correct key combination to launch the terminal window would be Control backtick. Right, and then to run our code, we simply type Python space main.py, like this. Excellent. And the result is expected. Hello world is printed to the screen. So if you're on a Mac platform, you would type Python 3 space main.py, like this. But of course, I'm not on a Mac platform. So on a Windows platform, of course, it's Python space main.py. And then, of course, it will print hello world to the terminal window. And you've just created your first Python app, albeit a very simple app, but At least we've got our hands dirty now, and we've actually written some Python code. We've discussed a little bit about string literals. And so let's move on to something a little bit more complex now. If you feel like you're gaining value, please hit that like button, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet subscribed. And please don't forget to ring the bell. Please share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do that at my Buy Me a Coffee webpage at this URL. It will, of course, be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions about what you are learning in this course, please feel free to drop me a comment in the comments section. I will respond as soon as possible. Having said that, all comments are welcome. Your insights are always greatly appreciated. If you'd like to follow me on X, my username is @GavinLonDigital. Right, let's get back to learning Python. Great, so let's add another line of code to our main.py file, and this time we want to output "It's another great day," like that. And let's see what happens when we run our code. So let's type py main.py like that. And you can see that hello world is written to the screen on the first line, and the other print method here results in the relevant text being outputted on a subsequent line, on the next line. So there's a line feed after hello world. So this is how the print method will work. So, I mean, if we typed another print method like this, blah, save our file to save our changes, and went py main.py like that, we get the expected result of hello world. It's another great day, blah. Okay, so that's pretty much how the print method works. Okay, so let's write a program that's just a little bit more complicated. So let's select the code that we've currently written in our main.py file, and let's delete that. This time we want our application to accept user input, then output a literal text hello, followed by a space, and then the user's name to the screen. So we're going to prompt the user for the user's name. The user will then enter the user's name, and our code will output hello, followed by a space, and then the user's name. So how can we do that? Well, what we need to do is use the input built-in Python method to prompt the user. So firstly, we use the input Python method to prompt the user. Then what that will do is that it will pause the code, and our prompt, whichever prompt we pass to the input method, will be displayed on the screen. The user must then press the enter key in order for the subsequent code to be processed by the Python interpreter. So hopefully before the user presses the enter key, the user follows the instructions denoted by the prompt, which will be please enter your name, and enters the user's name. Then the user's name will be stored in a variable, and then the text hello followed by the user's name, hello space, the user's name, will be outputted to the screen. Okay, so firstly, we create a variable. So it's going to be name is our variable name, equals, and then we follow this by the input Python built-in method. So input is a built-in method within Python. And then we open and close round brackets like this, and then we pass in a literal string to the input method, which will be please enter your name, then colon, then space like this. And let's press the enter key to go to the next line. And then we use the print method once again to output text to the screen. But in this particular case, it's going to be a bit different because we want to include the variable within the string literal. So how do we do that? Well, let's first include hello within our string literal like that. And then say if we included uname, which is the name of our variable, like this, let's see what would happen. So when we type py main.py to run our code and press the enter key, okay, please enter your name. So I'm going to go Gavin. But of course it's including uname, the literal uname, within the string literal, and that's not what we want. We want whatever the user entered, in this particular case Gavin, stored within the uname variable, displayed after hello space, and then whatever's stored in uname must be displayed to the screen. So we must wrap uname within curly braces like this to tell Python, as it were, that uname is a variable. But that is not the end of the story. We need to include an F just preceding the first double quotation mark here, which makes this string literal an F string. So F stands for format. So this means we are able to customize our string using the F here preceding our literal string. So we are able to customize it. And in this particular code, we're customizing our string by including the uname variable within our string. So this will result in hello space and then whatever's stored in the uname variable being outputted to the screen. So we are including uname at the position where we want the value within the uname variable outputted within our string. So this is called an F string. F stands for format. And let's see if that works. So let's make sure that we press Ctrl S to save our changes to our code. Let's type py main.py like this to run our code. Please enter your name, Gavin. Enter, hello, Gavin. And that's worked perfectly. So, I mean, if you, for example, for whatever crazy reason, wanted to include the variable preceding hello, we would, of course, get this result. Gavin, hello. Right. So we're able to include the variable anywhere within our string. So we're able to customize the formatting of our string by using an F string like that. Okay, that's great. So now, in fact, let's cut that and put it here in its rightful place. Save our code, clear the screen, and type py main.py like this. Press the enter key. I'm just going to call myself Bob this time. Hello, Bob. Excellent. So the other thing to note is that we can include comments within our code. But if we include comments, we need to make sure that we separate our comments from the code itself. So, for example, if I typed below is code to prompt the user for the user's name. Oops. Oh gosh. Like this. So below is code to prompt the user for the user's name. Like that. We want that as our comment. If we run our code, I'm sure you know what's going to happen. Okay, and of course it's complaining, but I mean, this is not how you create comments in Python. That's the point I'm trying to make. It actually thinks you're trying to run this as code. The Python interpreter thinks you're trying to run this line as code, which of course your intention is for this line to be completely ignored because it's a comment. So why would you want to include comments in your code? Well, you might want to include comments in your code to describe your code to other developers that might take over your code at a later point in time. So now you can see that I'm beginning this line here with a pound symbol or hash symbol, if you prefer. And that tells the Python interpreter to ignore the following text on that line. So you're telling the Python interpreter that this isn't code, it's a comment. So ignore it, don't interpret it. So now let's see what happens when we run our code. Of course, our code is working perfectly now. And of course, you can include multiple lines within your code file as comments like this. And we say below, the code below outputs hello, followed by the user's entered name. that with quotes like that. Hello followed by the user's entered name. So here we've got a comment. Below is code to prompt the user for the user's name. That's pertaining to the first line of code here. And then for the second line of code, we've included a comment stating that hello followed by the user's inputted name will be outputted to the console screen. Great. Then we can finish this section by running our Python code. And to do that, we type py main.py and press the enter key. Perfect. And that's a little bit more complex than the Hello World application, but still pretty simple. So in the next section, we'll look at data types and variables in detail. We've looked at strings kind of superficially, but in the next part of this course, we'll go into more detail regarding strings as well as the other primitive data types in Python, like integer, bool, you'll see. I hope you've enjoyed the first part of this course. In the next part of the course, we'll learn about data types and variables in Python. If you feel you have gained value, please hit the like button. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And please don't forget to ring the bell. Please share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do that at my Buy Me a Coffee webpage at this URL. It will, of course, be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions about what you have just learned in the course, please feel free to leave your questions in the comments section. I will respond as soon as possible. Having said that, all comments are welcome. Your insights are always greatly appreciated. If you'd like to follow me on X, my username is @GavinLonDigital. I hope to see you soon. Thank you and take care.